Happy New Year, everybody. Thanks for watching and thanks for subscribing. In today's episode, this being the new year, I want to bring up the issue of calendars. If, like me, you use the most commonly used calendar, the Gregorian calendar, which was introduced in 1582, you may know some of the issues that we have with it. So each year starts on a different day of the week. The months are not equal in length, and they're not evenly distributed across the year or laid out in a way that would make any real sense. This makes it hard to know what the day of the week is if you only know the date number without actually looking at a calendar. The year's 4 quarters, with 3 months each, have a different number of days in them, making it difficult to compare quarters throughout the year. This is one of the reasons why businesses tend to use a different business calendar. And finally, we have months, which are thought of to be in conjunction with the lunar phases, but they're really not with this calendar. And the equinoxes and solstices don't line up with the beginning, end, or middle of any of the months. So people have known this for quite some time, and there's been many calendar reforms suggested over the years and centuries. And it can be daunting to kind of keep track of all of this. But it's interesting to know that some of the reforms have actually been implemented pretty successfully. One such calendar reform is the International Fixed Calendar. And this one actually has 13 months of 28 days. Now, this calendar was actually used as the business calendar for Kodak for about 60 years. So we can see that it has been implemented pretty successfully. So this calendar has some interesting benefits as a result of this system. One is that every date of the month falls on the same day, and regardless of the month. So the 16th is always a Monday. Also, the new year always begins on the same day, and it always ends on the same day. Not to mention that every quarter of the year has the same number of days. So this calendar seems so simple, easy. Why is it not being used all over the place? Well, it's got some disadvantages too. For one, the way that it gets the exactly 13 months of 28 days is there's an extra day at the end of the year. They call it year day or something along those lines. So this is kind of an interesting thing. They throw in this day that they don't count as part of the week or as part of a month or anything like that. It's just an extra tacked on day. Now, this might not seem like a very important detail, but for those who have strong religious beliefs, many of the world religions, the specific days are important. The day of the week shifting because of this added day, granted, in the calendar it wouldn't be counted as part of the day of the week, but they'd know it's still a day and it's still going to shift things around. And for example, the Sabbath falling on a different day every year might be a little bit of a challenge for people. Not to mention that the shift in days would cause the need to recalculate birthdays and holidays. So as you can see, this calendar is not without its problems. Another calendar very similar to this is the world calendar. This came out later, and through having a 12-month year, tries to be a little more similar to the Gregorian calendar, but it still has some of the problems of both calendars, the International Fixed Calendar and the Gregorian calendar. For example, it doesn't have the nice, simple 28 days per month every time that the International Fixed Calendar has. It also isn't quite as complex with its days per month as the Gregorian calendar. It's simplified in that it's 31, 30, 30, 31, 30, 30. So January is 31 days, February and March are both 30 days. April is 31 days, etc. You see the pattern here. So this is much simpler, much more even and easy to figure things out. It also starts the year on the same day every year. But wait, it still has this World Day, which was the year day at the very end of the year. Okay, so there's the same problem with this calendar as the International Fixed Calendar. It's just not going to happen. So what else is there? And what is this calendar that I said that we use all the time? Well, there's ISO 8601, which for the most part is just a set of display standards for the year, it is based on the Gregorian calendar. It's modified a little bit to make it simpler for computers to calculate, but it really doesn't change things too much. Baby steps. Now there's a subset of ISO 8601 that is interesting to me, and that's the ISO week date. So what this does is it forgoes the months entirely. It's like, we don't need those. They don't matter. They're not connected to much of anything. And it just counts the number of weeks. So for example, week 3, day 2. You know that 2 is a Tuesday. With this system, the weeks always start on Monday and end on a Sunday. And that's basically it. You just count the number of weeks in the year. Granted, 52 weeks is a large number of weeks, and it may make remembering what specific week is what holiday difficult. I don't know. We don't really know because we're not all using it personally ourselves in everyday use. But it is kind of an interesting system. So this also has some shift in the number of days, right? 52 weeks times 7 days per week is 364. Not quite the same number of days in a year that we have. But here's how they get rid of it. They do the 52 weeks per year every year until it comes to the leap years, which is multiple years longer than our current leap years. And they tack on an extra week, a whole extra week. Now this solves the problem of adding an extra day every year that the other calendars have, making it religiously feasible to adopt. And it does simplify certain aspects of the calendar. For example, knowing what the date is, you'll know what the day of the week is, and should make finding your calendar holidays a little bit easier. Okay, so this does solve some of our problems, but it does kind of create a few other minor problems. I kind of like this setup though. I think that this week date system is pretty interesting. I could see the 52 weeks being a little daunting to some people, but I mean, when we already have 30 or 31 days in a month, I don't know. The diffusion of the time is, I think, a little more even. There's many more calendar proposals out there, and many probably have fixed a lot of these issues, but I think that at the end of the day, there's no way to really create a calendar that is perfect, that has all the features and consistency that we hope for, as well as keeping in mind our cultural and religious beliefs, and allowing us to not get lost with the calendar. It would be interesting to see these implemented in a more cultural way, but I don't know. What do you think? Is there a calendar system that you know of that seems to fix a lot of the problems, or you like this the most? Are you happy with the Gregorian calendar? Do you feel like we don't need to change anything because we've been using it for so long? I don't know. What are your thoughts on this? I'm curious to know this, and I just always been a person that I like the consistency. I like the simplicity of it, and knowing what day of the week the date is huge for me. I never know that. And I don't like looking at a calendar. So that's what I've got for this episode. Please like, subscribe, leave those comments, and I'll see you next week.